Hey everybody, we've got another wrestling recap for you. This time it's the WWE NXT TakeOver Rival special. I hesitate to use the term pay-per-view because it's not really a pay-per-view. It's a special that only airs on the WWE network. And I suppose most of you know what NXT is, but just in case there aren't any who do, NXT is kind of the developmental system for WWE. They're trying to find their next big stars. It's based out of Full Sail University in Florida. And again, they have a weekly show that airs on the I think on Hulu and the WWE Network, and then every once in a while they'll air these 2-hour specials. And this week was called Takeover Rival. It was originally Takeover a Rival, but now it's just Takeover Rival. And okay, so our first match was Hideo Itami versus Tyler Breeze. And Itami comes out, he's basically your Japanese badass guy who could do a lot of stuff in the ring, good worker and everything. And then Tyler Breeze comes out, and he's kind of the he's sort of in the vein of, if you remember the old tag team of N&M, that was Mercury, Nitro, and Melina, and they had like the paparazzi. He's kind of in that vein, the self-absorbed celebrity. In this case, though, he takes a lot of selfies because that's what they do. That's what people do nowadays. They don't have paparazzi following; they take selfies with their phones. And so he comes out, and he has this giant. Tyler Breeze has this giant furry selfie stick. So he's a man to be feared because he has a giant furry selfie stick. And as the match goes on, Breeze was targeting Itami's knee, and at one point he kind of locked Itami into this sort of a cloverleaf-like maneuver. Instead of he sort of figured forward the legs, but instead of using his hands to hold the legs together, he basically used his legs to hold the legs together. And it was a really nice looking hold for a while, but Itami eventually managed to get to the ropes. Then, but Itami managed to wind up winning anyway after he hit a drop kick in the corner. He hit a running drop kick in the corner, and then a big drop kick to Breeze's face for the pinfall. And yeah, I'm going off in notes again. Our second match was a no disqualification match between Bull Dempsey and Baron Corbin. They were holding a tournament and the backstory with this was they were holding a tournament. Well, Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey had faced like 2 other times before, and they had both been squash matches in Corbin's favor. And then Corbin was entered into a tournament for the number 1 contendership for the NXT title. And, okay. There was a tournament for the number 1 contendership, and Dempsey interfered in Corbin's match, costing him one. And so now this is another grudge match. And it was an ODQ match, but there really weren't any weapons involved. Dempsey would look around the ring for weapons early on, and then they just kept turning up empty. Corbin hit a big spinebuster for a 2 count. Dempsey hit a diving headbutt for a 2 count. Dempsey eventually did grab a chair from the ring announcer area, but Corbin hit him with his finisher, which was the end of days for the win. And then afterwards, Corbin just kind of set the chair up next to the still kind of unconscious Dempsey and sat down on it triumphantly over him. The next match, we had the tag team titles. It was the Lucha Dragons versus Blake and Murphy, or Murphy and Blake as I had written it down. And the Lucha Dragons were the champions. They lost it to Blake and Murphy, who were this upstart tag team that kind of came out of nowhere and won the belts. And this was the rematch for it. Early on, Sin Cara of the Lucha Dragons missed an attempt at a Hurricane Rana. The announcer tried to play it off like this has been countered, but it clearly looked like a botch. Meanwhile, and then Kalisto, not too long after that, botched an attempt at a suicide dive out of the ring. Blake and Murphy hit a double team maneuver for a near fall, and it was kind of like, if you remember when Ron and Don Harris were in WCW, not when they were Creative Control, they were just the Harris brothers. They had this kind of back suplex powerbomb finisher, and it looked kind of reminiscent of that, except there was also a neck breaker involved in it as well. And yeah, I'm invoking Ron and Don Harris, so I don't know if that's necessarily a good or bad thing. But Blake and Murphy then managed to hit a brainbuster and then a frog splash for the win, and they retained the titles. Our fourth match was the finals of the number one contenders tournament between Finn Balor and Adrian Neville. Early on, Neville was able to block an attempt at a suicide dive by Balor, and Neville then countered a slingshot attempt by Balor. Balor hit an enziguri in the corner and then followed up with hitting a suicide senton outside the ring. Balor then hit a dropkick into the barricade and then followed by a double stamp to the back of Neville's head for a 2 count. Neville hit a corkscrew moonsault off the second rope for a 2 count. Neville actually then hit a enziguri of his own, similar to the one that Balor had hit earlier. Balor then countered Neville's finisher, which is called the Red Arrow, which is kind of a corkscrew splash. He countered it into a small package, which was only went for a 2 count, and then not long after that, Balor hit a running drop kick, which knocked Adrian Neville's head, the back of his head, into the turnbuckles, and then he followed it up with a double stamp for the win. And now Finn Balor is the number one contender for the NXT Championship. The fifth match is a fatal 4-way match between Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. Kind of funny thing, in the vignette they played to build up the match, I can't remember if it was Sasha Banks or Becky Lynch said, yeah, they were going to extinguish Charlotte's flare. The inside joke, of course, is that Charlotte is Ric Flair's daughter. It was really poorly executed. I should point out this was not an elimination match. This was a one fall to the the belt would change hands. So Charlotte did not have to get pinned in order to actually lose the belt. And early on, Charlotte actually got thrown outside of the ring and then thrown into the display board. They have that sort of lines the outside of the ring apron, and knocked out a bunch of the LED lights, and that knocked her out for a while. Becky Lynch. I don't know why I keep calling her Jessica Lynch. I wrote it down here too, Jessica, and I had to scratch out and put Becky. I don't know if you could see it there or not, but anyway, then Bayley got tossed out of the ring for a while, and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch, who had formed an alliance of sorts in the previous weeks leading up to this, and of course that alliance is now completely fallen apart. Charlotte came back in, excuse me, and Bayley kind of went out of the ring for a while, and in all the commotion, basically at one point or another, a wrestler would get, one of the women wrestlers would get knocked out of the ring and sort of rest for a while, and then come back in when it was convenient. Bayley hit her finisher, the Bayley to belly suplex, on Charlotte. The pin was then broken up, I believe, by Becky Lynch. I can't quite remember. And then, as Bayley and Becky were fighting on the outside of the ring, Sasha hit a suicide dive onto them. And then Charlotte hit a suicide dive of her own onto those three. As the action went back into the ring, Bayley then hit a Bayley to belly superplex on Charlotte. The pinfall got broken up by Sasha Banks, who then tried to cover Charlotte for her own cover, but Charlotte kicked out after 2. Gotta turn the paper here, sorry. And then Sasha locked in a crossface on Charlotte, and Charlotte tried to make her way to the ropes, but then Sasha leaned back enough and rolled it into a crucifix pin for the 3 count. And so Sasha Banks is the new women's champion. And now the main event of the evening for the NXT title, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. This is kind of why this special was called Rival, because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were the best of friends, and now they're the best of enemies. Because Kevin Owens had just arrived in NXT, and right when Sami Zayn won the title, he attacked his best friend, and in an attempt to gain the upper hand and get in the shot at the belt, which he was able to do. And early on, Owens was kind of teasing Sami Zayn. He kept kind of rolling out of the ring, milking the 10 count for as much as it's worth. And Sami eventually got fed up with it and leapt over the referee and managed to land on Owens and take him out for a while. But then Owens again gained the upper hand pretty quickly and began whipping Zayn into the turnbuckles. He dropped Zayn across the top rope. He hit a gut buster, and then he hit like this kind of fisherman's driver. It's tough to explain what the move was. You kind of had to see to understand it, but he kind of picked him up like he was going to do a drop down, a face drop into his knee, but he sort of more drove the top of Sami Zayn's head into his knee. But then Sami got his second win and started hitting some clotheslines and managed to get Owens back outside the ring, threw him into the ring steps. Owens then gets in and hits a super then got back into the ring and then hit a super kick and then a finisher called the Cannonball for another 2 count. Zayn then managed to hit a half Nelson suplex for a 2 count. Zayn then countered Owens' attempt at a senton bomb. Keep forgetting whether they have to turn the page over or turn the book over here, sorry. Zayn then hit his 2 finisher setups, the exploder suplex. He then went for the haluva kick, but he missed it. Owens was able to roll out of the ring. Zayn then countered Owens' attempt at a ring apron powerbomb by hitting a springboard moonsault. Unfortunately, Zayn hit the back of his head on the metal entrance ramp, and it really started to knock him woozy. So even though he was able to get another upper hand, he tried to go for another haluva kick, but he got a little dizzy, and Owens hit him with his finisher, the pop-up powerbomb, for a 2 count. Owens then hit 2 more power bombs and only got a 2 count. Owens then tried to hit 1 more power bomb, and then he went for one last one after that. But then the ref stopped the match, basically said Zayn was completely unable to compete, and Owens was awarded the NXT World title. And that was how the show ended, basically, with Owens standing triumphantly over his unconscious former friend. Overall, this was a great show. If you're not entirely familiar with NXT, it's not quite the old ECW, but I would actually kind of put it really close to that. It's that really small arena. There's not a lot of over-the-top effects or anything. There's a lot of great, intense wrestling action. The crowd is really into it. It's not like they're pulling people off the streets, or when WCW would roll in, would run out of MGM Studios at Orlando, Florida. Those were all basically tourists who didn't really know anything about wrestling, and they would have to hold up signs that said applause for and boo for the bad guys. Like I said, it's absolutely nothing like that. It's a crowd that's really into it, that really follows the matches. Great talent in the ring. They know what they're doing. A lot of guys have made their names on the independent circuits, and they've come into this, and they've excelled at this. Sami Zayn's a really popular guy. Neville's a really popular guy. Finn Balor's a really popular guy. Owens, I hear that management is really behind him. I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know how long he's going to be the NXT champion, but I wouldn't be surprised if not too long after he loses the belt, he starts appearing on either Raw or SmackDown. So I'll see you in a couple weeks or so for Fastlane. I don't know exactly when I'll be able to put the recap show up. I might have to do another attempt at a pay-per-view Raw. Hopefully there won't be a blizzard to interrupt things again. Sunday there'll be another Whimsical Adventures of Agent Carter, and enjoy it done.